Well, that's our conversation this morning, among a number of other issues to take on with our guest in the studio this morning, who is a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, Alfred Ononugbo. He joins us here in the studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ayo. It's my pleasure to be here. And good morning, Nigerians.
You've heard all kinds of comments about this whole issue, particularly the ones that happen almost like everything happened in a week, in Kebbi, in Niger, in Kwara. All of that just seems to have surged in at once. And we've also heard the governor of Borno State making the statement that this resurgence seems to be something real. What do you make of it? Is it that we let down our guards at some point, or is it that the insecurity issue just went latent and are now becoming important again?
Well, let me first appreciate the effort of the Nigerian soldiers and the military generally, the security establishments for their efforts. I want to thank them, and particularly those who have paid the ultimate price. We share in your pains at this moment. And I also want to appreciate every Nigerian for their prayers and, of course, remaining positive. And I think I'm one of those who want to remain positive. It's been long in coming. It's expected that if the appropriate steps were not taken, we will get to this point. And probably it could get worse, except that I'm beginning to see international intervention, which had not been so vocal, which has not been so obvious, beginning to weigh in. And that's a very interesting aspect to the whole development. And for that to get to this point, it shows you that there are greater schemes that are yet to be played out on both sides. What's happened in our country happens every day, and I think the involvement of the United States probably gave it more light and put it on the headlines of most newspapers and the media, and that is also generating its own attention and traction. But I think we shouldn't have gotten here.
It goes back to the same question. Did we drop the guard at some point, or it's just a wave? Because there are those who are saying, look, we don't hear of these insecurity issues during elections, or when the general elections are closed, or whenever there is going to be an election. As a matter of fact, all of the areas that are where these insecurity issues take place, they usually have senators representing them. They have chairmen of local government. They have House of Reps members representing them. How can we get results from elections there? I don't remember, unless you want to tell me otherwise, INEC coming out to say, because of insecurity in so-so parts, except on very, very rare cases, that we weren't able to get, voting materials there, and consequently we didn't have results. Is there a dynamic at play here?
Definitely. And even from the trends, you will see that there is a political angle to this whole crisis. There is the economic, and of course there is the social and religious. So it's divided in parts. It depends on which part of the country you're coming from and who are the people, who are the players. I want to be careful because of the state of the nation to avoid incitement, because that's where most people are now, pointing fingers. Everybody wants to prove that they have done their best. Politicians come promising us heaven and earth. And like a popular author said, politicians think about the next election, but leaders think about the next generation. It clearly shows that we've not articulated the place of the next generation in our political thinking. There should be a marriage between the two, and one should drive the other. Thinking about the safety of the nation should precede political gains. We've had challenge with establishing our patriotic positions as a nation. That's why you see ethnicity playing a lot of game. You see religion contesting for recognition and place in our national lives. These are red flags. These are dangerous red flags when we begin to push narratives like religion, ethnicity, and of course, wealth without source. These are red flags. And when you have these things become prominent, the fact remains that the beneficiaries will grow weaker, and they will be incapable of even determining their destiny and their future. So they become vulnerable and ready and willing tools for anybody, whether they are non-state actors or state actors, they can be employed. And even when the state begins to engage the non-state actors, in their developmental or whatever plans, these are dangerous red flags, and they are flying every day. So how we got here shouldn't be a surprise.
Tell us the history, or rather the sources of these narratives. Now, you've quoted the fact that the religious narratives is one that is unhealthy and a red flag. But then you've also said that there are significant political influence and consideration in all of these insecurity issues that we're talking about. Now, it is also been seen, in our social life, general knowledge, that sometimes some of these narratives come from politicians, and when they make these statements, it's not it's the remote people, the people in the localities that just take on these words, and one way or the other run with them. Another narrative that is out there is that we have had cases in this country where serving governors went and sat and had conversations with these non-state actors, all in the interest of whatever. We've also heard narratives from a sitting governor in Nigeria saying, this is why I had to make peace with bandits. And meanwhile, the military has reiterated its stand that this is not a healthy trend. Now, how do we manage these narratives so we have one cohesive one and we all join together and face one direction in dealing with these issues? Because it will seem like, be it political, economic, social, whatever, we are not all united in this fight against insecurity.
Well, let me make it clear here. The Bible that guides the existence of Nigeria is the Nigerian Constitution. And if we have to look at the Nigerian Constitution clearly, the position and roles of every leader and every citizen is clearly enshrined in the Constitution. And when political players begin to tinker, manipulate, and distort these documents, they provide a safe haven for themselves to infringe on the privileges of the citizenry and go undetected or unprosecuted. And that's a very serious concern. Now, a sitting governor is merely a politician. And basically what they want to do is to sustain their popularity among the people, give the impression that they are serving the interests of the people, while breaching the SOP, the standard operational procedure of engaging with criminals. The law is so clear on what constitutes a crime. And when you break the law, there is a relevant arm of the Constitution that states who should be involved. Such people should be apprehended by the security, charged to a court of competent jurisdiction, tried, and whatever the court decides should be the punishment should be meted. This should be the cycle. Now, when people who are politically exposed and privileged begin to break this process, they are fertilizing the machineries of threats that we are suffering from. So they've kind of pushed it aside. The governor has no right, on whatever grounds, to go and be negotiating on behalf of Nigerians. He's not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's a very big error on the part of the governors. As much as they are the chief security officers of their states, we have a sitting president. We have the National Security Advisor. We have other offices that are assigned and paid by taxpayers to support and help the president in dealing with security matters. And the governors are part of that team because they're also part of the National Executive Council. One expects that there should be a synergy between the activities of the governor or governors and the presidency. There should also be an understanding between the three arms of the government, which is the president, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. We are not seeing that cohesion. So it has given people the opportunity not only to manipulate the system, but to trample on the values of our national interest. And it is pushing us every day towards disaster.
So many issues to raise about this, and I'm sure we'll be going to some of the people in those communities shortly, but Markwe has one or two questions for you before we do that. Markwe, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. You are still on Sunrise Daily. Well, Mr. Ononuwa is still here with us. You heard the man from Kebbi State, and what do you make of all of that?
Well, I would always say, he's a politician, and what he has told us is what they are trying to do to remedy the damage or the situation on hand, and I appreciate their efforts. However, I think we should go beyond just rescuing these children. These kidnaps had happened too frequently across the country that one should ask, why haven't we come up with a strategy to checkmate such crimes being committed against our children? Abductions have happened in Kaduna, in Kebbi, Borno, and it's continued. Why haven't we had a strategy to ensure that these activities ceases to happen? That should preoccupy the think tank team of the government, because if we don't have a way of capturing the crime culture around us, we will not be able to manage the manifestation of criminals or crimes in our culture. We should be able to have a track. We should be able to document. And these are not rocket science. They are easy to handle, and they are easy to capacity to develop within our criminal justice administration system and our communities.
Do we have a template? I ask that because we are not hearing about criminality, armed robbery, and all those things for the first time. I grew up in Lagos, and if there is anything that I heard about Lagos in the area of criminality, even under the military, was the tremendous, humongous, abysmal, spate of armed robbery over the years, to the level of legendary robbers, if I can use that term, And Anini was just one. There was another one before him called Oyenusi. There was Anini and a number of others like that. And it was, thank you. And a whole stream of stuff. But it will seem like all of that's suddenly gone under in Lagos. And from the military into this republic, it will seem like everything just kind of tapered down. Is there a template that was followed that could have been replicated? Or you think this is just something that is being supported by some forces that are known or unknown?
Well, I knew that years back, the security services were proactive, and they had an approach that was able to deter people from openly engaging in crime. However, the world have changed. We've gone into the digital age, poverty has increased, and the failure of governance to deliver dividends to the people has become a norm. Now, where do we get this right? We need to go back to the table. For instance, and I've championed this and spoken about it in forums, we don't have a central crime database. The police have records, the DSS have their records, but there's no central database. There's no one-stop clearance port where activities of Nigerians, whether they want to join the army or they want to be employed as housekeepers, you just check and be sure that you run a basic background check on these people. Even the politicians, many are in the representative offices just because they had access to money or powerful sponsors, not because they possess the credentials and credibility to occupy the offices they found themselves. That's one. Two, we've also used quota system to, push the country out of its track. When quota is enforced, or whatever it is being used without merit, then we expose the safety of Nigerians to hazards and all kinds of danger. So these are issues. We need to have a central crime database. And how do we generate this? From basic reports. There are no communities in Nigeria that do not know those who are criminals in their community. Even those who are drug exposed, or who are exposed to all forms of social, antisocial behaviors. So if we keep these records, and it's accessible to the security agencies, to organizations, corporate body, when they're engaging people and they know your life has a history and there's a record somewhere, people will be careful in the associations they keep and in the activities. But when we don't have this track, we can't generate it. You go to police stations, you will go and check statements, even statements made by people. I often visit the Central Crime Registry at Alagbo in Ikoyi, and I realize that they are doing a lot, but it's not the capacity would want them. And without a central crime database, we cannot fight crime. We can't even identify the involvement, because if somebody commits crime in Lagos, he can move to Enugu or Owerri.
There are some who have cited examples like the US and some other, some other developed states in the world, saying that, for instance, with one number, you get the health history, social history, employment history, crime history, or whatever of any individual. Now, I remember that one of the things that was sold to Nigerians for getting the national identity number was that we'll be able to trace whoever is making calls wherever and all of that. On the one hand, do you think that could have addressed the issues you're raising now? On the other hand, was that initiative, did it even get off the ground in the first place?
Well, I knew there was an effort, and that initiative would have addressed so much, not just so many, so much of Nigeria's problems. Because a lot of, for instance, at some point, so shamefully too, the government was claiming that the attackers, the terrorists, were not Nigerians. Now, how did they cross our borders? Where did they settle? How did they integrate? They found their way all to our communities, Benue, Enugu, Kwara, Ogun State, and you keep counting. Secondly, with a national identity number, which unfortunately, because it's not been integrated to our security establishments and also our necessary establishments, I think the government needed to work more to make sure that the NIN project works, because that will give every individual an identification number that carries every history of your movement, of your activities, engagement, employment, and be able to detect early exposure to all manner of things, including our politically exposed people. A lot of them have histories and crime records, but how they were cleared to go and contest an election, and every day we see on the media those who knew them, those who have their records, coming to the public to say, this guy had a crime history. How did he end up becoming a public officer?
I guess, the authorities are listening to you, and if you've been pushing it, maybe we'll also get to that point at some point in our lives. Now, there are other issues that have been raised. On the one hand, there are those who have raised the issue of manpower, equipment, even funding. Now, we also hear the United States of America promising to provide support in fighting insecurity. From the initial threat to invade guns a-blazing to now offering support. What do you make of all of this?
As much as I appreciate the efforts of our international community friends to help us, you can't address insecurity where poverty is prevalent. It will not work. That's why we are beginning to suspect that there are moles in our Nigerian security establishments, because when people are not, when the welfare of the people are not guaranteed, you will find out that compromise and non-compliance will be very common. A lot of people cannot survive, so they are vulnerable. And once they get any graft, anything passed to them, they will want to give it because they expect more. So they are not doing it because they are patriotic. They are not doing it because they are unpatriotic. They are doing it because they want to survive. And I would have believed that our government, apart from the assistance we want to get to support and quell the activities of terrorists and bandits in Nigeria, we should begin to look at how to improve on the welfare of Nigerians, because it's affecting every institution. You walk into the police station, for instance, you see policemen sleeping on the floor. They don't have police facilities dignified enough to give them a place to rest. Even when they're on transit, on special duties, you need to think about the allowances of these people. For instance, before I came in here, I penned down on my record that an average public servant cannot own a house in Nigeria. Probably till their kingdom come. They can't buy a new car. These are things that tells you that the people own the place. But the political exposed people have it all. And how many are there in a country of 250 million? Possibly more than that. We have enough capacity. We have over 200, let me be fair, we have over 150 million youths in Nigeria that could be mobilized and given the opportunity to join the fight to keep Nigeria safe and secure. But we don't have them coming forward because they are grappling with the existence.
Oh dear. Oh well, Mr. Ngaski, it does appear that we've lost you once more. So we're going to be going to Mr. Ononugo now to also, make sense, because you have spoken about the linkages between developmental indices, the unemployment, the fact that youths are not carried along, the fact that, unemployment has been a major, and a lack of patriotism because people are just simply trying to exist. People are concerned with existential matters, and I'm wondering really what the state has done for them. All of these connections are there. But as somebody who is also, how would I put it now, you are a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist. I'm sure that when you're listening to these conversations around what transpired in Kebbi, we see that it wasn't like as if there wasn't actionable intelligence from what we have heard so far. And people, every time these kinds of things happen, people always they always say, oh, there ought to have been intelligence. Our intelligence agencies need to sit up. We need to invest more in intelligence so that we can prevent things like this. But in this instance, we're hearing that there was intelligence, and it's poking serious confidence holes in our security architecture as to whether or not there was sabotage, whether or not there was betrayal. These are the questions that people are actually having in mind now. From your own analysis, how would you say that the Nigerian military, because the military clearly is where fingers are pointing, how do you think they need to handle this? Do you think that that statement saying that they are investigating these breaches, if there were any, are enough? Or do you think that they need to be more vehement in terms of what has now transpired?
Thank you very much, Mokbe. Let me say this. The military is the strength of any nation. And I don't believe that any career military officer would want history to remember him as a failure. This is my conviction. Now, there is also the issue of intelligence. Yes, gathering intelligence is one, but using the intelligence is another. And there are chains of authority that ensures that the tact, the process, and whatever it will take to execute whatever information being transmitted through intelligence hits its target. I'm beginning to imagine that, yes, the army might begin to look like the scapegoats, But there are dimensions of decisions that the army cannot take. There is the political angle, and we have seen situations where political interests override professional and critical considerations. That's where I have my problem. We need to identify the source of authority that drives these operations. Now, we are losing people. We are losing our soldiers. We are losing our children. We are losing our communities. The situation is dire. So we need to identify who drives this. Now, the military could have their best men. They didn't send them there to die. To come to think about it, that they captured an army general and eliminated him as if he had no worth is also a challenge. So there's a level of decision that the military cannot make in operational situations. There must be a political balance, and that is what we are not getting. There seems to be compromise at the political end in executing the well thought out strategies of the military. This is my position. And I believe that until we address it, what we are suffering from in Nigeria will not stop. We need to tackle this menace. There are few individuals, I believe. There are strategically placed people in our society that I believe are benefiting from this mayhem. And the government should allow the intelligence agencies to come forward, and I'm sure they have this information in their domain. I remember Commodore Kayode during an interview I had together with him sometime last year. He made it clear that all that is needed to address these issues had been known for a long time. The information, the intelligence is there, but we lack the political will. We have compromised the army, turning them into religious establishments. On Fridays, you see people trooping into our military establishments to pray. On Sunday, you see them dressed. When we have restrictions, there should be respect, there should be boundaries. And so long as we don't, we are cultivating and cross-fertilizing harm and danger. So we need to draw that line.
Well, it's an endless conversation, it will seem, because we've been talking about insecurity in our country and in various parts of it for a long time. Something important that you said, and I think the authorities should pay attention to, is that we cannot significantly fight insecurity where poverty is prevalent. I think that's a very important point to take away. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Alfred Ononugbo is a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, CEO, Bell Protocol and Security Support Services, as well as fellow of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria. Once again, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Ayo.
And that's Sunrise Daily this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, and God bless Nigeria. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, we also have to thank Mr. Ibrahim Ngaski, who is the chairman coalition of Kebbi CSOs. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And thank you, viewers, for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Business Morning is on top of the hour.